So I was thinking this morning, I actually had to use my fingers to do this calculation. I was ordained in 1989, so I went through the decades, and I realized this year is the 35th year that I have been blessed to be a Unity minister. And I want you to know that the one thing I've learned more than anything else at all is that I don't know anything. So I know you're happy to be here this morning in the room with somebody who publicly announces they don't know a darn thing. And I know you're excited to hear what it is I have to say. And frankly, so am I. I love the words of Leo Tolstoy. He said, "We can only know that we know nothing, and that is the highest degree of human wisdom." So everything we think we know so that we can realize that we don't know anything. And I'm just getting started here, folks. It's a great Sunday to be alive. It's a great Sunday to wake up. Every day is a great day to wake up and realize I don't know anything. But there is a dimension, a universal dimension in this life experience that knows it all, that has it all carefully and precisely planned out. Not just for any old reason, but to make certain that your life is as beautiful, as successful, as happy, and as harmonious as it can possibly be. So I don't know anything, but what I can share with you this morning is my own personal experience. And I think that's what it's all about. But it's important to remember, isn't it? So if I'm coming to you and I'm going to say, blah, 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 and that's usually what I say in shorthand. If I'm going to do that, it's important that I realize that I am saying what I'm saying, and I'm speaking to you out of an awareness that I don't know anything. So what I can say is I'm sharing my personal experience, and it might be real and it might not be real. It might be true, it might not be true. It probably may be true for me, but it may not be true for you at all. So that's the umbrella that I'm putting over everything I want to say to you this morning. The recognition that I'm speaking to you from personal experience, and that's the best that I can do after 35 years in ministry. Relationships is my subject for this morning, and you may have noticed that life is all about relationships, not just with individuals, but your relationship with everything that's a part of your human experience. And I wanted to share with you this morning an untold story about the very first relationship that we have ever been made to be aware of. And that is the relationship between Adam and Eve. And this is revelatory. This is going to be information you can take home and share with your family and your friends. One late afternoon, Eve is walking with the Lord. She loves the garden, but she misses having some kind of companionship. So she says to God, "God, I need somebody to be a companion, somebody to be by my side." And God responds by saying, "Well, I can make a man for you." Some things you should know first about this man. First of all, he's going to be emotionally distant. He will not ever understand your feelings. Secondly, he'll always want to put himself and his own needs first. So Eve is kind of thinking about this and contemplating, I don't know about this. She says, well, I do want the company. I do want the companionship. So I'm good. I'm game. All right, then God reaches down to grab a clump of clay, and he's molding it in his hands, and he says, Eve, there is one more thing you should probably know about this guy. Eve says, yeah, what's that? He said, well, your task will be to convince him that I made him before I made you. Yeah. I've always appreciated that there was such a strong feminine influence in the Unity movement, haven't you? Yes. So often our religious authorities come in the form of males. And if you think about it, while we did have a male and a female, the one where it all started was Myrtle Fillmore with her healing back in the 1800s. And that's why we're all in this room this morning. I would like to invite you to think right now with me of 5 qualities that you really admire in other people. 5 qualities that you really admire. I had a head start on you, so I'll share with you what I came up with. The first one was spiritual clarity. I really appreciate people who seem to be clearly focused on spiritual awareness, their spiritual identity. To me, that's almost pivotal in terms of being able to take any relationship to a deeper level. Loving disposition. Don't you all like loving people? I do. Prefer that much over people who are holding resentments or hostilities or anger of some kind. I really love and appreciate loyalty. People who commit themselves to moving forward in relationship with you regardless of what seeming obstacles arrive at the pathway, realizing those obstacles are actually opportunities always. Compassion is something I really appreciate in other people. People who can be empathetic and understanding and share that quality with others. And I really admire talent. And we had such great talent this morning, both in front of me and behind me. I really admire people who have identified what it is that they believe to be their God-given talent in life, and they're bringing it forth in the fullest measure possible, in the most beautiful measure possible. So those are my 5 qualities that I admire in other people. I'm not asking you to accept those for yourself, but give it some thought. What are the qualities that you most admire? And then flip that around and think about qualities that you dislike in other people. This is sometimes a little more difficult to do because none of us really like to think about or contemplate or focus on the things we don't like. But I think it's important this morning, just for the sake of this exercise. For me, the first one I thought of was arrogance. I don't like people who take on a sense of superiority in the presence of other individuals or set themselves above other individuals. I don't like people who manipulate, who try to work people and circumstances in their favor. I don't like people that are vindictive, that are interested in getting back at other people for what they feel those other people have done to them. I don't like insensitive people, cold people, people that seem ruthless or detached or disconcerted about others and the world at large. And I especially don't like people that are highly dramatic. Now, even as I say those words to you, and I have members of my family right down here in the front, they know that I am probably the biggest drama queen in my family. And I have been that way for some time. I tend to exaggerate, overemphasize. My granddaughter's sitting down here giving me signals that is true. And that sort of leads into what I want to say this morning, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to say in my sharing with you. And I invite you to take it in, because initially it's liable to contradict a lot of the information that's been a part of your human training and education up to this point. And here it is. There is no such thing as another person. There's no such thing as another person. I know it seems like we're all separated men and women walking around in these bodies, but what's our fundamental unity principle? We're all one. We're all connected. There is no separation. And it's in that understanding that we can begin to see there's no such thing as somebody else. All of these people that are making up the cast of characters in your life experience live nowhere but in you, in me. The best and the worst. It's all right here, in you, in me. So the question becomes, can I own what I praise and dislike in other people? And I'll tell you, I can. I'm not proud to say it, but I can say there have been moments, there are moments, and there probably will be moments in the future when I will be arrogant, manipulative, vindictive, insensitive, and dramatic. It does live in me, but I don't want to accept it. So it becomes easier for me then, rather than to accept it for myself, to try to project it. And this is something that our inauthentic nature, our egoic nature loves to do. It says, well, that has nothing to do with you. It's all about the other person. Well, wait a minute. Didn't he just say there is no such thing as another person? It's in me. And while this may seem threatening, challenging, difficult to accept, I believe it's the ticket to living a life that is free of victimization. And I'll tell you, the longer I'm on this planet, the more I realize what a joy it is, what a rush it is to live without pointing the finger of blame and persecution outside of me on everybody and everything else. Not just individuals, but institutions, governments. You know, it's not until each one of us takes responsibility for our experience that we're going to be able to begin to make a contribution that can shift this world into a better state of being. And I know that's what we're all wanting, but we don't all realize that if that's going to happen, it has to start, not with anybody or anything out here, but with me. So the relationship that I'm talking about this morning is the only relationship there is. And that is the relationship that you are having right now with yourself. It's your relationship with yourself. Your relationship is what is getting projected out onto others. Your relationship with your, I will say, significant other, which is really not an other at all. It's your relationship with yourself. And that's what's moving out forward. That's why, my friends, we're always saying if we can love ourselves completely and unconditionally, we will be able to experience love on earth. You want peace on earth? Be peaceful with yourself. This relationship is core to everything else, I believe, coming from my own experience, recognizing that I don't know a darn thing. Not only that, my friends, but I believe that we are forever interacting with reflections, dimensions, qualities of our own consciousness. We attract people, and this is the strange thing, it's also beautiful and perfect. We attract people into our experience that can reflect our own projection. So we have drawn these people in. A lot of times we draw them in unconsciously even, and then they get there, we don't like what we're experiencing, so we cast them out. And how many of you have recognized that when you let one relationship go, there's a strong likelihood you're going to end up with another relationship that's very much like the one that you just let go. The person has disguised themselves, apparently as a different human being, but they're still the same essential expression. It's the law of attraction, So if you want to be free from victimization, I suggest the first thing we consider is, and again, coming from my own experience, that we begin to love and accept ourselves to a greater degree. One of my favorite authors on the subject of relationships, and especially the spiritual dimension of relationships, is Paul Ferrini. And he says this: relationships give us the opportunity to withdraw our projections and own them for ourselves. Everything we think and feel about another person belongs to us. So think about those qualities: 5 best, 5 worst, what you admire and what you dislike. It belongs to you, not to the other person. The other person is just giving you a chance to look at your own stuff. He says, this may be hard to remember, and I'd like to say, praise the Lord on this. This may be hard to remember if and when another person is attacking you. But that is why relationship is a demanding path. Whenever any conflict is experienced in a relationship, both people must be willing to own their own happiness and let the other person off the hook. Anybody experienced in the past week or month conflict with anybody? Or yeah. Well, there's 2 ways you can see that. You can see that as a misfortune. Look at this difficult person I've drawn into my life, and how can I get rid of them? Or you can see, my friends, these individuals are there to bless you. They have a gift for you. They have an opportunity for you to look deep inside, which is not always an easy thing to do, I get it, but to look deep inside and say, where and how might I own this inside of me? There's a particular position on this that says that even before we ever arrive on this planet, we make contractual agreements with other individuals to show up in just the right time, in just the right way, to help us recognize a now needed opportunity to warmly embrace and accept some aspect of ourselves. And let me tell you, when I'm watching television these days and seeing some of the personalities that are in the news and on the screen, it's not an easy thing to own that for myself. It's not an easy thing to withdraw my judgment. And sometimes, even after all these years of studying truth, it astounds me how judgmental I can be. True confessions here at Unity Village Chapel this morning. Every relationship, I believe, this is coming from my own experience, every relationship is a mirror. In it, I can see into my own soul. And I'll tell you what, at this point, and I've got to be careful because I know I've learned it's sometimes dangerous to say, bring it on. Because your indwelling spirit will certainly bring it on. It will give you more and more. You know, I used to teach prosperity classes, and people would come to me after the first week or two, and they'd say, man, I really liked what you said. I started to put it into practice, and all hell is breaking loose in my life. And I would say, good, congratulations. You know, when you put something out there, such as I just did, bring it on, could be an interesting week ahead for me. Who will show up in the cast of characters of my life. But bring it on, because I pray that however challenging it may be to walk through the experience of that relationship, at the end of the day, it's going to bless me. At the end of the day, I'm going to be a better person, not because of one or two special people in my life, although I have special people, but because universally, I am seeking to love myself, to find peace within myself, and then reflect that out and back to me. And if that's not happening, it's always for me anymore a red flag. There's some dimension of myself that I haven't been willing to look at. And until I'm able to look at it all with acceptance and love and appreciation, I will continue to have conflict, difficulty, challenges, and a lack of peace in my experience. I believe that we discover ourselves by recognizing our reflection in others, by owning that reflection, which often is the hardest part, followed by not only owning it, but accepting it, appreciating the role that it's serving in our lives, and truly loving it. And thus, when we, as I said, express this for ourselves completely unconditionally, we begin to find that even the most challenging personalities or circumstances or situations in our life transform into gifts, or as we say in Unity, true blessings. Remember, Whitney Houston sang a song years ago, and I loved it then, and I'm still in love with it today. One of the lyrics is, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. Loving yourself is truly loving others. There's no such thing as another person. Loving yourself is truly loving life. So your relationship with yourself, I believe, is twofold. I've used these terms. They are terms that have been beneficial to me. They also, of course, have their root in Unity teachings. You have an authentic nature. That authentic nature is the truth of your identity, regardless of any appearance or belief you're holding to the contrary. It is the truth of who you are. It's how you have been created, your authentic nature. And then you have an inauthentic nature, which is your mistaken idea of who you are. And part of that mistaken identity comes from the fact that from the moment we arrive on the planet as little tykes, we are, I used to use the words from Don Miguel Ruiz, human domestication. And those are pretty harsh words, thinking of ourselves as being domesticated. But an even harsher word now for me, but I like it because it reminds me of the importance of this arena in my life, is what I will call misunderstanding of reality. And it's important for us to remember that our love must embrace both the authentic nature and the inauthentic nature. This means that when the authentic nature shows up, which is always truth, love, beauty, kindness, joy, peace, we can more easily embrace that perhaps, but we embrace it. And when the inauthentic nature shows up, we do the same thing. We don't try to push it away. We don't try to shove it aside. We realize that we're here to love and embrace ourselves even when we are being, those words I used previously, vindictive, dramatic, overreactive, insensitive. Love it nonetheless, because it is only through loving these aspects of ourselves that we have harshly judged as being negative that we're going to be able to release them. So long as we repress them through our lack of acceptance, we get in sticky situations. Love them both. And what I'm going to suggest, I realize that Valentine's Day has come and gone, but we're still in the month of love, right? And now, if you're lucky, you might go into a Walgreens or somewhere. Maybe all the Valentine cards are on sale, and that's going to be beneficial to you. Because what I'm going to suggest is that you grab one of those and that you send it not to your beloved, but to yourself, which hopefully is your beloved. And I picked this card out for myself. I used to do this back in Miami, and I would actually have people before Valentine's Day write themselves a love note in the card and then mail it to themselves. And it's really cool to get it in the mail, a letter from yourself. This one says, "I frickin' love you." And then I wrote this little note inside. And this is to me, but as I read it to you, I want you to consider what you want to write to yourself. And I really encourage you to do this, whether it's Valentine's Day or whether that's past. Here's the words I wrote. Dear Chris, I want you to know how much I love and appreciate you. I love all the years that you have survived and all the years that you have thrived. I love the insecurities you took on through a very unpredictable childhood. I love the OCD, anal retentive control behaviors you adopted to cope in your younger years that have all helped you to succeed as an adult. I love the shelter you built around yourself in response to fears of other people and of life. I love that in spite of your self-doubt, you have met life with profound enthusiasm and the belief that there was nothing you couldn't do. I love your creativity, your originality, ambition, excitement, and drive. I love your perseverance and persistence. I love how much you love and appreciate others and are fast to let them know how you feel. I love your passion for spiritual awareness and your desire to share your spiritual experience with other people. On this day and every day of your life, know that I desire only to love every aspect, conscious and unconscious, of who and what you are. I believe in you. I trust you. I promise to stand by you through whatever conditions life may bring. You're my very significant other, and I am extremely grateful to know and love you more with each passing moment. So the question becomes, and I realize to a lot of people, those words directed toward oneself would seem vain, selfish, egotistical. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. Until you realize that the love you extend to others can be no more sincere than the love you extend to yourself. And if there's nothing else for us to do in the few days that remain during this month of February, I think that's a worthy endeavor to be able to say, especially in those moments when you might mess up, especially when words come out of your mouth that you didn't really mean, especially when you find yourself face to face in a conflictual situation with another one of your fellow human beings in the recognition that there's no such thing as another person. And so this morning I want to leave you with what I call a recipe for liberation. How many of you would like to be liberated this morning? Wow. Liberated from all victimization. Everyone in your world is your friend. Everyone in the world is here to support you. Everyone in the world is here to love you. And it's going to happen because you have found all these qualities within yourself. Number one, own. Feel, own, and embrace your reactions completely. No judgment, especially harsh condemnatory judgment. Liberate. Release your perpetrator from blame. You can only do that by realizing there's no such thing as a perpetrator. This is all you trying to alarm yourself to go deeper in your own self-love. Introspect. Ask yourself, what aspect of my own self is this person reflecting? And I've done this as recently as this past week with an individual who I found myself sort of resisting and pushing away. What aspect of my own self is this person reflecting? Number 4 is to love, to discover it, to accept it, to love it, and celebrate it. Number 5 is to witness it. Very important. To witness the qualities of the authentic nature and to witness the qualities of the inauthentic nature. The best of you and what you would consider by human standards to be the worst of you. Can you just witness it? Just by witnessing it without pushing it away, without trying to repress it, but by just witnessing it with a sense of acceptance and appreciation, I believe you will find, as I have found, that the inauthentic qualities within you diminish over time. They just diminish. It's the resistance that has allowed them to hold their space in your experience. And finally, to celebrate your own soul's refinement as an expression of what we love to talk about in unity, but we find it a little more challenging to live it. And that is the embrace of all of life, of all of humanity. I used to say to other people, you know, if you would just be someone other than you, this relationship would be fantastic. If you would just be somebody other than what you are. I don't want to play by those rules anymore, my friends, because I find that makes me an individual who seeks everybody to conform according to my wishes, and that's going on long enough. So I pledge instead to seek to live in a victim-free consciousness, to recognize that I am in every relationship I'm in by choice, and I am free to walk away at any time. I'm not dependent on another person for anything. My dependency rests on that which dwells within me. I will not and I cannot change you. I am responsible for my happiness. I don't hold others accountable for fulfilling my expectations. I am here to love myself, others, and life unconditionally, as together, we begin to walk in unity, in harmony, and in love. I believe that you, along with me, want more than anything for those to be the qualities that are expressed in life every day. We so crave love and peace and joy on earth. Let's recognize this morning that it all begins not with the other person, but with ourselves. God bless you.